What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Today's video, we are on the test server here, so thank you Plarium for allowing us access. And in today's video, we will be testing the upcoming fusion Tholin Foulbeard. Now, personally speaking, from his reveal, I had some high hopes, especially since the last two fusions were a little bit lackluster after Fabian. In this video, we go over many areas for Tholin, so I think we'll be a little bit surprised at the results. But first, let's check out his kit and let's check out the build I have him for this video's playtest. So first things first, let's quickly read over his skills here real quick, just in case you guys missed the preview video. So Tholin Foulbeard, this is actually the first kind of visual we have on him because we weren't given any visuals when we previewed him. We were only given his avatar. But you can kind of see here, he does have a demon head on his back. And yeah, he has a really cool aesthetic here. Not sure why Plarium did not allow us to show his visuals earlier. Maybe there's... maybe this is, I'm not too sure actually. What's so special about this that we couldn't see it a little bit earlier? Anyways, he looks pretty badass. He's got really high base attack, which was really nice to see, especially from attack-based damage dealer. He's got attack in all battles, which is really good. His A1 is an AoE, chance to place weakened. The chance doubles up against the Corrupted Alliance, a boss, or a minion. And it doesn't require accuracy against bosses, Corrupted Alliance, or a minion. And it grants an extra turn if the weaken is placed on all enemies, whether it be 1 or 10 enemies. So that's really good. We got 2 books into damage and then 2 books into the debuff, which is definitely required. His A2 here, he's got a single target double hit on a 3-turn cooldown when fully booked. He gets 20% in books damage wise. Each hit will ignore 25% of the target's defense. That's really solid. If the target is from the Corrupted Alliance, boss, or minion, ignores 50%, which is really good. Keep in mind, like the baseline for me when I see 50%, it's like Sun Wukong's A2, which hits really hard. Each hit decreases the target's attack by 5%, up to 25%. Each hit also increases this champion's attack by 5%, up to 50%. Now, this is really powerful because it scales up and it also weakens the boss or the enemy. And this is going to be better in longer fights. Similar to how Ninja gets stronger as the fight progresses, this is not as powerful as Ninja's scaling ability, but this is still very strong. The A3 Rabid Fury on a 3-turn cooldown when fully booked, 20% damage in books. All enemy attack double hit before attacking places 50% increased attack on himself. That's great, self-buffing. For each crit landed on the first hit, increase the damage dealt on the second hit by 10%. So if you crit on 5 enemies, the second hit's going to be 50% increased damage. So obviously if you're fighting a boss with minions, this is going to be a big damage dealer for the A3. And then lastly, his passive here, activate Demon Breaker skill every 5th turn this champion takes. So Demon Breaker is the A1, so it's going to get a free A1 every 5th turn. Enemies from the Corrupted Alliance, bosses, and minions cannot land a crit against this champion. Now, this is a little bit different than Harima's passive because Harima's passive versus Demon Spawn, for example, allows her to always take weak hits. Now, Tholin doesn't have like crazy survivability stats, so even a non-crit hit can still probably do a lot of damage to him, just to get that clear. Whereas if it was weak hits, then he might be able to survive. But even a non-crit regular hit is probably too punishing for Tholin to survive. So this is not like a huge thing to lean on in terms of survivability. But yeah, overall, really strong powerhouse abilities for his kit for dealing damage. Interesting passive here for some A1s. Let's take a look at the build I have him in for this video, and then we'll play test him in some areas. Alright guys, so this is my Tholin. I decided to fully max him out. We did have access to a 5 and 6 star soul for Tholin on the test server. I decided to go for the 6 star because we just wanted to see what his maximum potential is for my account. This is the best gear I have on my account put on this champion. Now I do have him in a arena centric build with stone skin and lethal. Obviously, if you want him to deal more damage against bosses or PvE content, you should put him in a 6-piece merciless set or 6-piece plus impulse or 9-piece merciless set or some kind of combination like that. But it should be at least a 6-piece merciless set for PvE content. Now, as a stone skin lethal, you get less ignore damage, but then you do start with the stone skin, which is of course very powerful in the arena. Now, I first want to start off by saying if you can't reach these stats, that's totally okay. That just means the scaling of difficulty will have to come down for whatever you're tackling. I just wanted to show him with his full potential with the best gear on my account. Go over his total stats here with Lethal and Stone Skin. He's got 9.2k attack. He's at 243 speed, 378 crit damage. No accuracy required in his build. 100% crit cap, of course. Like I said, we do have a 6-star fully blessed blessing on him. We have Crushing Rend as the blessing of choice. He will get the extra ignore defense on the 6-star here. Very, very powerful. And of course, the additional stats are there as well. We did put him with the Cat's Gaze as well, which gives us a additional ignore defense. I didn't want to go too crazy on the gems. I just put in one mythical gem, which is the boss killing gem, which kind of fits into, you know, the theme of his entire kit. He's really good against bosses, for example. And then after that, he is fully booked, of course. We get some pretty good value from books, although I think he might work pretty well even without books, because his A2 and A3 are basically just damage skills. So if you just are lacking books, you can kind of just use them for whatever damage you can provide without the books. 4-turn cooldown, 4-turn cooldown is honestly not too unreasonable. His A1 is really, really good. So it's not too punishing just to use his A1 if you don't want to fully book him out, or you can't right away. Going through his masteries here, pretty generic masteries. I went with the attack because I had enough crit rate, which is nice. Helm Smasher, of course. I went with the counterattack masteries on the defense tree, mainly because his A1 is very, very powerful and does quite a bit of damage. Again, I think this guy is probably going to be more PvE focused, so I did go down more PvE type masteries for the offense tree. Usually for arena, you probably want to take Shield Breaker to break shields, and then you probably want to go with Ruthless Ambush for the first hit bonus. But for him, he's more of a longer term damage dealer against bosses and PvE content, so I kind of went with a different set of masteries here. But these masteries will still work pretty good in the arena. If you want to check out the gear pieces here, I'll just go over the gear pieces real quick. I try not to use any of the big gems here to exceed the normal glyphs. Sorry, I try not to use the bigger glyphs to try to exceed the current glyph values, and I try not to, you know, fully max out everything, because we do have access to quite a bit of resources here on the test server. But I did try to keep things a little bit more reasonable. I accidentally clicked the wrong glyph here, so you see this a little bit over capped on the attack. And yeah, so we got like I said, Stone Skin and lethal gear. And this is my build, and yeah, let's try him out in some content. Let's test out some of his skills and see what he can do. All right, guys, so we're gonna just test him out against some wave-based content against the dragon here. Now, I don't believe that minions count as these wave-based content. Like, so waves don't count as minions. So obviously the minions only count when they're with a boss. So he's not gonna get any additional kind of bonuses against them here. But let's see what he can do here. We'll do a couple runs just to get like a baseline for his damage. Let's test out his increased attack A3. Let's test out his A3 here. Now keep in mind that this will be more powerful against, you know, multiple enemies. So his second hit should hit quite hard. And it obliterates the first wave. That's pretty good. That's pretty good there. So 1.7 million damage. That's pretty good. All right, that's a little bit surprising because usually in my test videos I don't blow through the first wave. Yeah, decreased defense and weaken landed by Lydia on everybody. Let's test that out again. So his first hit, yeah, his second hit's hitting for about 400k. Obviously it's scaled up, so 1.7 million damage there, which is pretty good. Let's test the damage on his other abilities here real quick. So decreased defense and weaken. Missed the decreased defense here on this one. Let's go for the single target A2. So it's going to ignore 25 or 50%. And this is without any of the attack scaling. So this is like on the first hit. Let's see what I can do against Chagar here, which is Lizardman. So he's only going to get 25% bonus. Oh, still deletes him instantly with the A2. Very, very nice, actually. All right, let's test out the A1. Let's test out the A1 here real quick. We do have increased attack to start the fight, and of course decreased defense from Lydia. Lydia is in a 9-piece Pharaoh, so he's going to get additional damage boost there. Let's test out the A1 with 1-time speed, and pretty big smack. I mean, even the A1 is deleting some of the minions. 1.3. So 1.3 on the A1 alone
And then on the A2, he's doing 1.7. So I told you guys the A1 is quite strong on him. There we go. We got some little numbers for you guys just to see. We'll test the A1 here again just to make sure it wasn't a fluke or anything. But yeah, his A1 is very impressive. It's very good to see. Missed a decreased defense here on this back minion here. Let's test the A1 again. 1 time speed and boom. Even without, did you see that? This third minion right here, even without decreased defense, still got deleted. Yeah, 1.4 million damage from the A1 alone, guys. Very, very powerful A1. Very impressive so far. All right, I know I mentioned that he is a PvE specialist, in my opinion, but I think he can perform pretty well in the arena. We do have him in an arena build, so let's see what he can do in a team like this. Let's see what kind of damage he can put out. Have a quick look here. Take it off auto. He's going to go first. Fabian's going to get in there, lock out. Our turn to go. All right, boosted plus attack. Let's see what we can do here. He is locked out. Okay, petrification will petrify you. All right, let's see what we can do here. We got the A2 increased attack, and then we got the damage boost per crit hit. So keep in mind, like if you're weak hitting, then you're gonna lose one of those crit hits. He does have no spirit affinity, so we're okay for that. Let's see what we can do here. 1 time speed. Oh, that's pretty strong. And I mean, Sifi would have probably got deleted if she wasn't petrified. That's really, really impressive, actually. All right, actually, let's try that again. Let's go for the same team again, since we actually got a turn. Sometimes these teams are so strong, we don't even get a turn. Like, he still goes first. But luckily, we have a way to get back in this with the supersonic set on the Fabes. And then we get a chance to take a turn. I do have Arbiter here for the plus attack, but his A3 doesn't require it. Let's test out the A2. Let's see how well the A2 can do here against Corrupted, right? So Corrupted would be Sifi. Actually, a lot of his team is Corrupted, so no bonus here for the A3 against the Corrupted. So, you know, it's just doing whatever the text was supposed to do. Let's see what his A2 can do with 50% ignore defense. Let's see if we can delete that Sifi. And plop. Whoa. Actually, the first hit killed the Sifi. I don't know how. She must have stopped the damage somehow. Maybe like aspect of Suroth or something. But she kept herself alive on the first hit. But the second hit deleted her anyways. Still, I think it was 180k on that hit. That was just a massive smack. Just a humongous smack. Actually, I just want to see how that damage was calculated here. Tholin for 77k. I feel like I saw 180k. That's what I felt like I saw. But we can try that again real quick here. See, okay, we're boosting up. He's gonna get a turn. All right, let's test out that A2 again on that Sifi. And slow it down and smack. 69 and 198 on the second hit. 198 on the second hit. Oh my lord. Okay, that's kind of wild there. But 68 on the first hit, and the second hit was 198. It's kind of weird here that Tholin only registers 77,000 damage. That doesn't seem right? Based on the numbers that we saw. I mean, just reading over the A2 again, like the only reasonable explanation is that Helm Smasher procced on the second hit, I guess. And then, of course, you got a little bit of an increased attack on the second hit. So that kind of makes sense there. Let's try and see what his A1 can do against the field here. So keep in mind that the A1 does have the corrupted minion or boss bonus. So the weaken will be irresistible. So we get to try that out. Good thing they don't have any block debuffs on, so that all got removed. So let's see if we can land the weaken, and then let's see if we can go into an extra turn. That'll be pretty neat. All right, so the weaken here, 1 time speed. So A1, attack all enemies before attacking, has 25% chance of placing weaken. It's 50% chance. So yeah, so even when fully booked, it's only 75% chance of placing the weaken against corrupted, boss, or minion. So basically against everybody except for Arbiter, it's going to be 75% chance of landing the weaken, and it cannot be resisted. And if it all lands, then he's going to get an extra turn. So let's see what happens here. It only lands on one, which is pretty unlucky, right? It only lands on Narcissus here. It has 75% chance on Ancora, Sifi, and Narcissus, and then 50% chance on Arbiter, and then we miss it on all of them. So it only lands on Narcissus, but look at the damage from the A1. It's pretty huge, right? It's pretty huge. It's pretty impressive. 242 damage there. If you divide that by 4, you know, that's still like 60k damage, which is still really, really strong for an AoE, A1. So to me, like in this build, perfectly viable champion for arena. And yeah, we're not playing any like pushover teams here, right? So let's do a little bit more here just for fun. Let's go up against Farb stuff here. You know, I'm going to try to target like CP teams just in case we go second, just because we do have a supersonic set to cut in. Okay, we go first. That's great. Let's see what we can do going first. Plus attack here. You don't need to run plus attack because he does plus attack himself. We get the lockout going here. All right, we get a turn. So let's try out the A3 here. And I mean, this is a squishier team, so it might actually kill everybody. So let's see what happens. And everybody gets instantly deleted. Yeah, of course. We're fighting a pretty squishier team. Let's try again. Let's try against this team against with a Harima on the field. This one might be a little bit more difficult because of the passive from Harima. But yeah, let's test it out. Let's test it out for fun. See what we can do. Keep in mind, guys, my Tholin here is pretty stacked out, of course. Like I said, he has the best lethal combination stone skin gear on my account. He is 6-star fully blessed. So it is a pretty massive build. Obviously, you guys scale it down for whatever you guys need to use them for. So let's see what he can do here again with the A3. Again, deletes the whole team. She was in stone skin. Otherwise, she probably gets deleted too. Wow, just yeah, kind of wild. Let's try that again. Let's try out the A2 this time. Actually, let's try out the A1. I think the A1 is, you know, the A1 is most interesting, to be honest. It's super interesting because it's so powerful. The A1 is actually so powerful. And of course, the A2 is going to be really good in longer fights. But let's try out the A1 here again. A1 is so powerful. Like, we have Harima's passive on the field, and it's still doing chunks and chunks of damage just with the A1. Very, very good A1. All right, let's do one more fight here. Let's go up against Hades' team. Again, targeting Sifi's just in case we go second. Gives us a chance. Okay, we go first. That's great. All right, let's go against the Gizmat. We are positive affinity against Gizmat, which is really nice. And Lazurius too. All right, let's do it. We're going to do the A2. Actually, should we... Should we try to do the weaken into the extra hit? Let's try the weaken into the extra hit. Okay, the A1 instantly deletes his team. Okay, so that's not going to work. All right, let's try again. I'm having a lot of fun with this guy so far. He's very powerful. He's very powerful, especially against some of these teams here where he can actually do quite a bit. Queen of Hearts gets an extra turn from her passive because of the Sifi bonus. That's okay. There we go. It works out. Locked him out, so he's basically not protected anymore. Oh no! Oh, almost. Oh, look at that. That counterattack from the A1, guys. That's why defense tree, double counterattacks, very, very powerful. I mean, at this point, it's basically over, so there's no real point in me going into him. Let's see what else. All right, let's fight a different type of team here. Let's go up against this Empress and the new updated chicken team. It's going to be interesting with Marius in the mix as well. You should go first here. And we do. Okay, buff up. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Let's take off some of the stone skin, hopefully. Only Empress's stone skin is removed. And we will go into the A2 just to delete. All right, we deleted 2 of them. See what else we can do here. Is the chicken going to get a turn? I think the chicken's going to get a turn here. Got the revive. And Who do we need to stop? We need to stop somebody here. Stop Marius, I guess. Stop you too. All right, let's go into the A1 AoE, which is really nice. The A2 here, again, is very good for single target damage, but obviously the AoEs are very strong against the wave of enemies. So let's see if the A1 can take out the team here, and it doesn't kill Marius, and for some reason it doesn't kill... Oh, the passive came in. The passive kicked in, sorry. So we'll just finish that up. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much over. So no real crazy need. Actually, is Marius dead? No, okay. I thought that was a visual. Oops, that's a mistake. Okay, that's okay. I guess feared. Because usually if I do the A1 to Terminator pushback, usually Marius attacks. We'll do the A1 here and then finish this off. But yeah, very, very good showing from Tholin here. Lots of damage, multiple AoEs. We didn't even use his A2 to single target delete enemies. But yeah, just showcasing his strength in some of those matchups here. Very, very nice. So even though, like I said, that he's not an arena, centric champion, he does have the ability to play really well in the arena. I would say more in a built team as opposed to like live arena, for example, because he doesn't have any built-in survivability. If you don't go first, you're just going to get blown away, even if you're in stone skin or anything like that. So something to keep in mind, guys. All right, let's test him out in some boss content. That's probably the most interesting thing. And I think what people want to see is probably Chimera. I think in Chimera he's the most interesting. I did put a team here for you guys, and we're going to do some cross comparisons against some very popular options here. We're going to be doing Ultra Nightmare Chimera. There's not too many damage options for Ultra Nightmare Chimera. Like we're looking at, mythical champions. We're looking at Ninja, Marius, Newt. That's about it. Like if you want to try to hit like 1 key damage, like at this point, like people are going way beyond 1 key, right? But if you're just starting out and you're just looking for that, first 1 key damage, you need a damage dealer, and there's just not that many that are super, super viable for Ultra Nightmare. So we're hopeful that Tholin here is going to be really good. I do have a kind of generic team here. Obviously, Mikage is not bringing a lot. If Tholin was Ninja, for example, she would probably bring way more, but I'm just using her for plus attack to guarantee that Tholin has plus attack. Any other champion would work. She also brings the increased crit rate and increased crit damage. Sorry, I just had to check. She doesn't bring increased crit rate. She brings the plus attack instead, but she does bring the crit damage here, so he does get a bit of a damage boost. And yeah, we'll compare him against some of the other popular options here. Like I said, I have a Marius built and I have a Newt built, so we'll use some of those to compare some of the damage numbers here. So interesting thing here. So when Mikage goes first, and she ally attacks, Tholin uses the A1, and Tholin will have a 75% chance of landing a irresistible weaken on the boss. He lands it, and then he gets an extra turn right away. So he's not the second fastest in this team, but because he landed the weaken from the ally attack, he does get that extra turn right away. This is really, really nice to see, right? It gives him a little bit more, more utility. It gives him more damage, right? So here, I mean, the thing is that the scaling part of his kit is from the A2. So we'll start off with the A2 here. Let's check out the damage here at 1x speed. He does have plus attack with the increased crit damage. You kind of see there's 380k per hit. No defense down. No defense down, guys. It's a massive A2. It's a massive A2. And yeah, we'll just, chug along here. We got plus attack on that first hit with the crit damage. Crit damage blast. Let's see here. We'll just do some damage, test out some of the skills here. Let's test out the let's test out the plus attack here. Plus attack was stripped off by the Chimera. So let's test out the A2. This time it does have decreased defense and weaken. Plus attack 260, 362. Keep in mind that the second hit does benefit from the first hit. So if you crit on the first hit, the second hit will get additional damage benefits. So that's why the second hit is considerably larger. But you can kind of see there that his A2 doesn't hit as hard as his A1. His A3 doesn't hit as hard as his A2. Sorry, my bad there. But of course, the A3 is an AoE. Against the Chimera, the A2 will be very, very powerful. Okay, let's test out the A1 now and see how it compares to the other skills. A1 is only going to be a single target hit.
He does land a 380k hit with a defense down. That's stronger than the first hit of the A3. And then since he lands the weaken, he gets an extra turn. And then you go right into the A2. And then this is where the big smacks come in. 470, 480. So the A2, big smack. And as the fight progresses, he's going to be dealing more and more damage as the attack scaling goes up. It's actually very impressive. Yeah, I'm very impressed. And obviously, if you're fighting a boss with minions, his damage from his A3 and his utility, because it's an AoE, will go up significantly. So again, we can test out the A2 here with plus attack. 340. Second hit, 400. Oh, actually, did you guys see that? Did you guys see that? That first hit was actually his A1 for about 400. And then he went into his A3. And then, actually, I think that was his A1 first, and then it went into his A3. So either way, it was his fifth turn. He got his A1, which is basically as half as strong as his A3, which is really good already. So really nice to see some of the damage output from all his abilities. All his abilities hit really good. We know that his A2 crushes the single targets really well. And the fact that he has 2 AoEs makes him super viable. In a lot of different content here. So let's try his A1 again. 591. So obviously, like I said, his damage scaling is increasing as the fight keeps going. I don't know if I'm going to keep playing the Chimera here, but it'll be interesting to see how much longer, how much damage he can do when he's fully cranked out. So let's try to crank him out. Actually, you know what? Let's try to get him going as much as possible. Look at those hits, guys. Look at those hits. We're talking about 1.2 million damage already. And the Chimera is also getting his attack decreased as well. So that's really nice to see. Yeah, let's go back into the A3 here. Yeah, his damage is definitely going up. This time he doesn't even have, he didn't have crit damage on. He does have plus attack. Here's with the crit damage on now. There are some variables with the damage, of course. We do have the Pharaoh's set, and we do have a protection set. So some of those buffs, do add some variability. The A1 here, extra turn. There we go. We landed the weekend. We get the extra turn. Did you see that? 678 A1 into the A2 here, and that's 549. Well, actually, the A1 started first, and then the A2 happened. So that seems to be the sequence of events. It's kind of interesting because it requires you to select the ability first, and then his A1 triggers. So it doesn't just trigger. Like his A1 doesn't just trigger on his fifth turn. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, looks good. We can only expect to see bigger numbers. I mean, we were just seeing a 1.2 million A2 hit already. I'm not going to play through this RAM shenanigans. Also, he's weak affinity against the Chimera on the test server, so it's not super important to test him out there. Let's switch him up. We got a Marius ready to play here against the Chimera. We're going to use exact same team, and we'll see what he can do against the Chimera here. All right, let's get going. But we were kind of seeing some pretty impressive numbers there from the Tholin. All right, decreased defense. And we saw from maybe 5 turns, we were doing about 14 million. So 5 turns, about 14 million total damage. Let's see what the Marius here can do. We're going to save the A3 for the extra turn stuff later to get back to his A2. Pretty big hits there from Marius. So every time he does the A2, we're looking at about 3 million damage. Marius looking real nice. Now, Marius is in a dedicated Chimera set. He is in a 9-piece Merciless set. I will show the gear on him just so we can get a proper look at the comparison here. But of course, the 9-piece is going to be a little bit stronger because it offers 10% extra ignore defense. Let's see here. Yeah, some pretty sizable hits. Some pretty sizable hits from Marius there. Like 1.1, 1.2. Pretty sizable hits, I gotta say. Gonna be hard to dethrone Marius from the best of the best, or one of the best, anyways, in terms of the damage dealers for the Chimera. Yeah, for sure, Marius is going to surpass the overall damage of Tholin, but I think Tholin definitely impressed there. Yeah, Marius. Yeah, I don't think there's too much here to see. But yeah, Marius definitely will eclipse Tholin in terms of overall damage. Again, I'll show you guys the build in a second. 4-star blessing on the Marius. We do have a Newt geared to play as well. So let's see what Newt can do. We are playing against negative affinity here, so you guys can kind of factor in that as well. There's nothing really I can do about this because this is the affinity offered on the test server, and Newt is probably one of the closer viable options to Tholin. So we can compare his max HP hits, right? Let's compare his max HP hits, one-time speed. So 390, sorry, 309. 309 times 3, so about 1 million. About 1 million per hit on his A3. So when you factor that in, and then you factor in how strong Tholin was hitting on basically all his abilities, because Newt's A1 and A2 are going to be significantly weaker than his A3. So we can test out his, A2 and A1 in terms of damage here, but it's not even going to be close, right? He doesn't have plus defense or anything like that, but for the max HP, it's not super relevant. His A1 here is doing about, 75k, maybe 75k. Maybe if you give him plus defense, maybe it does 100k, right? So maybe it does 100k. You know what? I gotta make sure that he has the right relic on, so I'm gonna make sure that I take Marius's relic off, and then we'll swap it on to a Newt. Okay, so we're back. Let's do that test again. This time I made sure that Newt had the proper relic on. So he does gain a little bit of benefit there. Let's see what his hits are now. Make sure we got all the protection buffs and stuff. Okay, so let's go into the A3. Let's see what his hits are. Decreased defense and weaken are there. It's 460, 417. So his damage did go up with the proper relic. But yeah, we're still looking at about 1.2 million damage from his single A3. Again, I don't think it's going to be powerful enough to basically overtake Tholin in terms of overall damage, because like I said, the total of all of his abilities are, more than what Newt can put out. Let's see what his A2 here can do. A2 just weak hit, which isn't a good representation, unfortunately. Cycle back. Let's see what his A1s can do here on the counterattack. About 30k. 30k each on the counterattack. When you counterattack, you deal less damage. So that's, again, not a proper representation. Okay, let's see what his A1s can do here. Non-counterattack. Oh, right. With Newt, he does counterattack with the same damage as per his passive. Sorry, I mentioned that. I have to mention that there. Counterattack. When he counterattacks at full damage. I forgot about that. But yeah, here we go. See if we can get back to his A3 here. This time we have plus crit damage, which maybe can help him out. Nope, not cycle back yet. One more turn. Get back to it. But yeah, so far, like I said, it's, it's not going to be close between Newt and Tholin. And that's a good thing. That means Tholin is a viable damage dealer for Chimera. So here we go, back on the A3. 230, 240, this time without decreased defense. So that kind of makes sense. So his capped out hit is basically about 400k. He does bring decreased defense on his kit. So obviously his damage will scale up over time. But his A1 and A2 are just not powerful enough to keep up with Tholin. So you can kind of see here 4 turns, about 4 million. I think proper affinity, maybe like 5 million. It's not crazy output there from Newt. But Newt is actually one of the more viable damage dealers against Chimera. But obviously against Affinity, he's going to have a harder time. I'm going to show you guys the champions here real quick, what I was using. So I was using this Marius here. Very, very powerful build, 9-piece Merciless set. Very good for PvE or boss content. 253 speed, 3
75 crit damage. He did use a Cat's Gaze, which I have currently on the Newt, so that pushes him up to about 400k, 400k crit damage. And he's using the same boss, 10% boss gem stone, so as Tholin, so there's no additional benefit there for Tholin. And I'll show you guys the Newt here real quick. So this is the Newt. He's in Savage, 267, 293. It's not crazy powerful, but he is capped a little bit by the max HP hit. And then he does have the Cat's Gaze on as well with the boss damage dealing stone. You could say that his gear maybe is not a direct good comparison, but I think the point still stands that his A1 and A2 are just not going to bridge the gap between the power difference from Tholin's A1, A2, and A3 combined. Yes, Newt's A3 is more powerful than any one of his Tholin's singular hits, but together it's not as good. Of course, Newt's going to be better in some situations as well. He does have counterattack, which might help against the Chimera, trial, and then he does have some self-healing, which is really good, and he's defense-based, so he's a little bit harder to kill. But in terms of raw damage, I would say Tholin is quite a lot better than Newt, but Marius is still better than Tholin for Chimera. So let's hop over to the other big boss content here in the game, and we'll build out a Hydra team and see how well he performs there as well. All right, guys, so I went with this build here. We have some support here with the Provoke, increased defense and shield, speed up, speed down, turn meter boost with leech, attack down, and then we got 3 damage dealers here. Now it's not going to be a perfect comparison because Tholin has the best gear on my account, but he is in a lethal set, so he's missing 10% ignore defense. Thor here, he is in a 9-piece merciless set. He is 5-star blessed, which is a little bit more comparable to 6-star blessed. And I would say his stats are pretty comparable or slightly worse, but of course with extra 10% ignore defense is probably pretty good. Protection set, Podrick giving all the proper buffs, cleansing and support. And then we have Mishnaki here for the AoE decreased defense. He's also in a 9-piece merciless set. His stats are going to be much worse because I didn't have the proper amulet. For example, he's missing 40 crit damage. He's the lowest blessed champion, but he does gain additional damage from having the only hex set on this team. So there's a lot of things going on with this team. I think it can give us at least some relative comparisons here. I wanted Tholin to be the only weakened champion as well, so that he has, basically, being relied on for his utility for his A1. And of course, it being irresistible against bosses really, really comes into play. Mishnaki is going to be the only Hex champion, so his damage will be boosted by Hex. Theoretically, you should expect Mishinaki to have probably the highest damage of the 3, but we'll see how this goes for a couple minutes here for overall gameplay, and then we'll do some quick runs and then see how it goes. I mean, the team doesn't have a reviver, so I don't see it being 1,000 team. We're playing nightmare difficulty right now, so yeah. Let's do the ally attack right into the provoke head. We provoke him right away. And then look, Weaken landed everywhere. Weaken landed everywhere, and now he gets his extra turn. Very, very nice. Keep in mind, it's only 75% chance to land the Weaken, even on bosses. But, this time we got lucky landing on all 4. And what do we want to do here? This one gives us increased attack, and it's going to give us scaling on the second hit. That's going to be pretty massive. We could just, okay, let's start without the scaling on the A2 first. Let's just go right into the A3 and see what we can do on 1-time speed. No decreased defense is on right now. So let's see what we can do. 100, I see 150 and 200 on the second hit. So about 350 on one head. With non-weak hits, no decreased defense. I think that's not too bad. That's pretty decent. But let's play this out a little bit more, of course. So we have Thor here. Let's go with the decreased speed. You can land some of that to boost him up here. We don't want to waste his A2 without the decreased defense, of course. So now we got the decreased defense here from Mishinaki. Applied on everybody. That's kind of nice. We didn't have any way to protect ourselves from the Head of Torment, unfortunately. We could have ran Chimera or something, but decided not to. All right, now let's do the A2 here. Slow it down for 1-time speed. We do have increased attack up. And yeah, this is going to be 50% ignore defense right away. Let's try to delete this head, the Torment head, because giving us a little bit of problems. Going in 1 time speed and chunk, about 800k. 800k on the A2. I think that's pretty solid. 800k on the A2. Control that head there for a second. Let's see what Thor can do here. His A2 is quite powerful, especially for an AoE. Let's see what I can do on the AoE here. As you can clearly see, pretty powerful smack. Pretty powerful smack. He has increased attack, of course. And yeah, it's yeah, his hit there on the A2 is just massive. So merciless set, doing lots of things. We didn't even have hex out on any of those heads. So let's apply the hex here from the Mishinaki. Get an extra turn here from the merciless proc. Let's just go after that. And yeah, let's see what else we can do here. So A1 weaken. Let's see if we can land on everybody. Slow it down for the cameras here. And 700k A1. Very nice, very powerful. All right, let's keep going. We're gonna have to play this out for at least, I don't know, a bunch of turns here. Decreased speed being applied. Boosting his Nature's Wrath, of course. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, now let's go into his AoE attack. Slow it down for the cameras. No decreased defense, just weaken. See what I can do. 500 plus 750, so about 1.2 million. 1.2 million is not crazy considering that Thor basically hit for 1.2 million on non-decap. Like, it felt like he hit for 1.2 million on the non-decapped heads. It doesn't feel that crazy compared to Thor. All right, let's see here. So we can go decrease. Okay, a couple decrease defense champions here. Let's slow it down. Let's see what his numbers are. Yeah, 800k here on this head without weaken. So Thor's AoE is pretty massive. Thor's AoE is pretty massive compared to Tholin here. Let's see, does he get the extra turn? Nope, not quite. Okay, let's go right into his A. Actually, let's go into his A1. Let's see if we can get an extra turn here. Oh, we got the counter attack going off with the fear stuff. Kind of nice. Now we have the reflect damage up, which is kind of like a game over, almost a game over for this team. Look at Thor there doing tons and tons of damage with the A1. Okay. I would say Mishinaki looks the least impressive right now, but he also has the worst gear. So let's see what the A2 can do. No weaken, no decreased defense. 3 million damage. 3 million damage. All right, now we're talking the A2. Sorry, that was the A2. Big smack there with the A2. All right, we're in a little bit of trouble here. A little bit of trouble. Little bit of trouble. So the Hydra heads can't crit against him. That's pretty nice. I gotta say that's pretty nice. Okay. They can't crit against him, but that doesn't mean that they weak hit against him. So he can still get his stuff stolen, of course, which is, you know, try to strip some of this stuff off. Mishinaki getting in there. Can't really use the AoE, of course, because we'll just delete ourselves. Try to use the A1. I mean, overall, pretty good damage so far. Pretty good damage so far. Can't really complain. But we got 3, you know, pretty premium damage dealers here. Yeah. Let's see how it goes. Let's keep playing. Maybe we'll play to like 20 turns here just to see how it goes here. Oh, we just deleted ourselves. So, of course, the reflect damage is going to be a little bit of problems. Let's check out the damage numbers here after only 12 turns. So we see Thor here with 15 million. But you know what? There you go, guys. Tholin, 15 million as well. So even though it seemed like Thor was just hitting like crazy numbers, Tholin still doing pretty good numbers himself. And Thor's overall kit is actually very strong. Like his A1 hits hard, his A2 hits harder or hardest, and his A3 hits hard too. And then he has a passive that hits hard. But Tholin keeping up here. Mishinaki here with 11 million. Keep in mind that Hex is boosting up Mishinaki's damage, so he's benefiting from the 2 big damage dealers here. So I would say Mishinaki is not in this kind of conversation in terms of overall damage output with Thor and Tholin. Thor and Tholin basically just have one job, and that's doing damage. Thor does bring decreased speed, which can help in a pinch, and Tholin does bring weaken, which is even more helpful, especially since he doesn't require accuracy to do so. But basically their main job is to do damage. Now, I would say this is very, very nice and comparable. Keep in mind that Tholin does not have the crazy merciless set on, so he doesn't get extra turns. And he's missing 10% ignore defense. So we can quickly compare them here. I'll show you guys the gear here on Thor, for example. So Thor, he is rocking the 9-piece, similar speed as Tholin, so I kept his speed range pretty close. Overall stats gonna be less, right? Gonna be less. Tholin's rocking about 9k, 9.2k attack, and about 370 crit damage. So you know, Tholin has better stats, but in a worse setup, right? A slightly worse setup. Thor does require accuracy to align his decreased speed if you want it. The Cat's Gaze is very similar to what Tholin is running. The main important gem is going to be the 10% damage to bosses. So, you know, he has that, which is going to contribute to some extra damage, but no advantage there for Tholin or Thor. And of course, Nature's Wrath as well. Now we can kind of, you know, compare how well Nature's Wrath scaled up for Thor versus how well Tholin's A2 plus attack scaled up for him. You know, in a longer fight, the plus attack might be more beneficial. But I mean, both of them are going to have good scaling for the later fights. We can quickly look at Mishinaki here in terms of his overall build. Again, he is in 9-piece merciless. Worse stats overall, 280 here. I'm missing 40 from the amulet. I just don't have a merciless amulet, so you know, you could say 320. You know, slightly slower speed. In terms of the relic, we're using a coronet, which is still a good relic, and it's still rocking the 10% damage to bosses, so no advantage for the other champions. But coronet requires time to build up, right? It requires time to build up. It's similar to Nature's Wrath, where it requires time. So potentially Mishinaki deals more damage as the fight goes on, but you know, basically so does the other champions. But given that Mishinaki also has Hex on his side for the whole team, he's the only person casting Hex, and his damage overall was only 2/3 of, you know, Thor or Tholin. I would say he's probably not in the, you know, same league as Tholin and Thor in this team anyways. So once again, this is the build for my Tholin. Like, we can have a quick reminder of what he was rocking versus the Thor. So like I said, he's rocking a little bit more crit damage, maybe 10% more crit damage, and, you know, about 15% more attack. He has more attack on, like, his base attack's higher, so it's easier for him to scale up, but he just has more attack than Thor. But also keep in mind that he is rocking lethal instead of merciless, so he's not going to get the extra turns, and he's not going to get, you know, the extra 10% ignore defense. So Thor has that going for him in terms of the stat difference. Now, in terms of the overall damage and performance, I would say Tholin with the A2 scaling, you know, you can get up to 50% additional attack. That's pretty significant, right? You can also factor in that he is running Crushing Ren, but all these things factor, like, there's kind of like push and pull between both of them. I would say they're probably pretty close. So Tholin probably is similar in terms of Hydra damage output as Thor. We can do a couple auto runs here to see how well they perform, but obviously this team's not going to be great for full auto, but we can just run it here for some completion's sake here. Whoops, sorry, I clicked the wrong button, and I just realized that on Nightmare difficulty, I did not ever unlock the quick battles for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, I guess we can do Brutal. So yeah, let's do Brutal and see how it goes. Highly doubt that this run goes 1,000 runs. It's just not going to go 1,000 here. So we just kind of have to redo our team here a little bit to include a reviver so that we can survive 1,000 turns. All right, so we replaced Wixwell with a Molly here. Molly just brings the AoE provoke, also brings a reviver, so we have more chance of going 1,000 turns, so we get some more data so we can use for a comparison's sake. See what we can do here. Okay, so on brutal difficulty, let's see. So we got Tholin here. So I'm gonna move my head. So Tholin doing 92 million. We got Thor with 108. We got Mishnaki here with 54. Like I said, this is not going to be a perfect comparison, especially over like a simulation here. We're basically just using auto bows. Let's run it again. Yeah, so again, so in this case, Tholin does more damage, 42 million, and Thor does 35. Mishnaki is trailing behind with 20 here. Again, it just depends on when they die, right? It just depends on when they die. Maybe they die to like reflect damage or something like that. So we got 36 and 32. Mishnaki with 9, so Mishnaki probably died really early. And it looks like Molly's not really helping here, but we got 20 and 10. But either way, I think overall, like this doesn't really show us too much, like all these 5 quick battles here. But I think overall, I think the comparison here is pretty close. At the very least, they're in the conversation against each other. So that's a real, that's kind of hitting the expectations that we wanted for Tholin, especially for this entire video, that he does perform really, really well. Yes, he's pretty jacked up. Yes, he's in a 6-star, Crushing Ren build. But, Thor's in a 5-star build here. He does have the Merciless advantage with the extra turns and the extra ignore defense. So I would say they're probably on par with each other in terms of this overall setup. Maybe if Tholin was in a 9-piece Merciless set, maybe he performs a little bit better. But I think it's all things being equal, those two are probably very, very similar. All right, guys. So my overall verdict on Tholin, I mean, the showcase kind of just speaks for itself, right? Like I really enjoy playing with this guy. I think this guy is an absolute beast in many areas of the game. Like, we were having fun playing him in Arena. He was doing really well in Chimera. He was doing really well in Hydra. Obviously, we have some really, really good gear on him, but you guys take it with your own account and, scale down the difficulty and all that, scale down the performance and expectations. I'm trying to show you guys the absolute best that I can do with this champion. 6-star, fully blessed with the best gear on my account to show you guys what he has the potential of doing. And I would say his potential is very, very good. And he met my expectations. His kit read really well. I was really happy to see that his base attack was 1674. I think his multipliers are good. His A2 smacks, his A1 smacks. And yeah, even his A3 smacks as well. And he has, 2 AoEs for utility. He has a weaken, 75% chance of landing. Unfortunately, not 100% chance, but it's irresistible, which means he doesn't require accuracy in his build, which is really good for flexibility. And his self buffing is really, really good. His plus attack, his background plus attack from his A2 boosting is really nice. And his, background decrease attack on his A2 is actually really good against a single target boss, like the Chimera, for example, is also very nice. So overall, as a fusion, this guy is pretty darn good. He's pretty darn good. I definitely highly recommend you guys going for him. Regardless of what progression level you're at, I think he can definitely help you guys out. At the very least, he's going to be fun. He's going to be part of the Dwarf faction, which you guys, just going to be using for faction wars and all that. And, he's a damage option for Chimera. And Chimera right now just doesn't have many damage options. So I think he's a must-do for you guys, to be honest. The one place we didn't test him out is the event dungeon. We're going to save that for another video because this video is obviously way too long, but at least it's a pretty comprehensive view of what this guy can do in many, many areas of the game. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Again, it's a bit of a long one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it gave you guys a little bit of a better outlook on what this champion can actually do. Keep in mind, it is going to be a traditional or classic fusion, meaning that you do have to collect rare champions, build them up, feed them to create epic champions, build those up, feed the epic champions to create Tholin, and it will be a time-sensitive event, of course, so you can't save the fusion for later to fuse. Make sure you guys fuse him in the given time slot. But yeah, anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about all of this. If you guys have any pointers or suggestions for Tholin, that would be awesome. Leave them in the comments. We'd love to read them. Make sure you guys come back to the channel. Check it out. We're going to have more content on Tholin and the upcoming Chaos Awakes campaign. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Appreciate your time as always. Take care, guys.